What is going on, Swayze gang? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. Where we finished off in the first part was removing the bumper. In today's video, we're going to be finishing off the Hellcat conversion into Knight Rider. Okay, so full disclosure, technically I am not turning it into Knight Rider. Knight Rider is the name of the mediocre TV series from the 80s. I am turning it into Kitt, which is the robotic, highly intelligent car being thing in the show, but calling this like a Hellcat or a Kit Kat just doesn't sound as good as HellRider. But anyways, in today's video, we're actually going to be completing this two-part project, and that is essentially putting lights in the front grille of this car. My intention is when I'm driving around at night or just at car shows, I can illuminate this front grille area and it's going to look really menacing and really cool. I've seen a lot of people do it on Instagram and I figured what better time than to document it on YouTube and try the project out myself. To kick it off, what I'm actually gonna start with is the lighting and the wiring. I don't really know exactly where I'm gonna place them. I have some ideas, but it's hard to know if I don't have the lights working actively as I'm placing it out on the front area of the car. So let me show you how I'm gonna wire this and then we'll move on to placing the lights in the front grille. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I got these car atmosphere lights on Amazon. I'll include the affiliate link down below. I appreciate all the support with that. And these lights are pretty cheap, and what's nice about them is they're Bluetooth controlled, so I can change the lights with my phone. What this comes with out of the box is 4 LED strips, a Bluetooth sensor over here, and then actually, at the end of the Bluetooth sensor is a 12-volt adapter. What I have gone ahead and done is actually just remove that 12-volt adapter to reveal the red and black wires that I'm going to be using for today's install. Ignore this one. This is just the skin. This is the insulation. The actual wires, let me try to show you a better position, are right here. You've got the red and the black. Those two on the right-hand side. These are the wires we're going to be using. If you're curious how to remove this whole thing from the 12-volt adapter, well, you essentially either cut it off, which is the easy way, or you can unscrew the top of the 12-volt adapter, and there's a screw on the side of it that you can unscrew again, and that will allow you to pull out pretty much this whole section over here. So I'll try to put up some footage right now that I filmed earlier before I even took the bumper off, but it's a pretty simple process. There's not too much to explain there. Now, with this lighting, I also purchased a separate product, which is these fuse box wire taps. There's a few different names for them, but that's just what I'm going to call them in today's video. But essentially, these are something that you can tap into the fuse box with, and then the positive from these lights is going to crimp down in this section right here. So that's going to be the positive terminal for the power for these lights. The negative terminal is actually going to be under the hood of the car, and I'll show you that step once we get there. For now, what I'm going to do is take the positive wire over here. I'm going to strip a little bit more off the section so I can remove the insulation, and then I'm simply going to insert the positive into this blue section over here and then crimp down on it with some electrical pliers, and that will serve as the positive connection. And then I'm going to plug in 2 fuses in this section over here and essentially plug this directly into the fuse box. I'll show you which particular empty fuse I'm using, but there's quite a few near the headlight fuses that I'm going to be utilizing for this wire tap. One thing to note about the way I'm installing these lights today is that these lights can always be on. Regardless of whether the car is on or off, it doesn't matter. The nice thing about doing it that way is if you go to a car show and you shut the car off, you can still have the lights going. If I choose to turn them off when I'm driving down the road, I can just turn them off. The downside to that is if you turn the car off and you leave the lights on, well, over the course of a few days, maybe a week, it will drain the battery. Keep in mind, these are LED lights, so they really don't take that much power at all. But over time, it will drain the battery. It is some lights that are flowing through the system. So just be wary of that. Now, if you choose to wire it when the headlights turn on, which is something I've done in all my previous installations, I'm gonna put a video up on the screen right now which shows you how I wired my shaker lights and also my illuminated headlight tubes on my 2017 Scat Pack. In both of those scenarios, I actually tapped into the front headlights so the lights wouldn't turn on unless it was dark and the headlights turned on. The good thing about that, when the car was off, those lights would turn off. So there's several different ways to wire it. But enough of that PSA, let's get started with putting the positive cable into this wire fuse tab. So we just got that done. As you can see, the red wire from these lights is hooked up to this fuse tap wiring. Okay, so now that we have the lid open, this is what it looks like. And the fuses that I'm actually going to focus on are in this top right section of the screen, specifically this row right over here. These two fuses are actually your right and left headlight, your HID headlamps. So what I'm actually going to tap into is these two right over here. These are spare according to this fuse box. And so I'm going to tap into probably this one. As you can see, you just pretty much plug it in and that's it. And it's in there. And then I'm going to close the fuse box lid on top of that. But first, I have to plug two fuses in here because the way this thing works is you have a fuse for the wire tap that's going to the lights. And then you have another fuse over here. If my camera actually focused at the bottom, and this fuse essentially controls this section over here. So that's why there's two fuses. Luckily, the wire tap that I ordered came with fuses in the box. And so I'm just going to plug those in and then plug it in directly into the one right next to the headlight fuses. Okay, as you can see, I got the fuses in. It takes a little bit of effort. You may want to put the fuses in and then put pressure against a hard surface, which is what I did. I'm going to plug it into that spare, which in case you were wondering is F14. Okay, so this is plugged in. This is going to the lights down here. And we just have this negative terminal right here, or this negative wire, I should say, and we need to find a ground. Looking in the engine bay, there's a few places you can maybe get a ground. You may be able to get one right down here, which is right below the fuse box. There's also a bolt right here. You need an unpainted surface, so you may be able to tap into this one. You're gonna have to unscrew it and then put this thing, the wire on and screw it in. Or I may be utilizing this one. I'm actually gonna play around with the engine bay real quick and see, and then I'm gonna make the decision. I will need some sort of adapter or connector to put this wire into, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Okay, so I finally determined which negative terminal I'm going to use. The one I'm actually going to be using is located right here. Yours may look a little bit different because it has this bolt sitting on top of it. You can use this when you jumpstart your car. I've used it before. So I actually unscrewed this bolt, and you can see there is the remainder over here. What I'm going to be doing is tapping the negative wire from the light fixture into one of these. Similar process to what I did with the positive terminal. I'm going to feed the wire through, and then I'm going to crimp down on it. So this will actually go on top of this screw over here. So kind of like so, if you can see it okay on camera. And then on top of that will go this bolt to secure it up top. I actually used this exact terminal when I did the illuminated headlight tubes in my 2017 Scat Pack. So I know it works. It will be a good ground connection, and it'll be pretty simple and easy. But again, you can use a lot of different options on this car. I found actually this adapter in my electrical starter kit, which I bought at Walmart like a year ago. But you can find this pretty much in any hardware store, any auto parts store, or your Walmart like I did. Okay, so as you can see here, I have fed the black wire through this adapter. Now we're gonna put this adapter on that screw down there. I have the adapter on that screw over there. One little complaint I have is I was wrapping it around because this is pretty much the same diameter as the adapter, is the wiring for these lights is so thin, the gauge is so thin, there's really not very many copper wires running through here. So, I mean, I guess that's what you get when you pay like 12 or 14 bucks. But just be wary of that. Be careful when you're tightening or screwing this in, depending on what size your adapter is, because it could rip the wire and then you're gonna have to create a new connection. So that's one complaint. What I'm gonna do now is screw this bolt on top of there, and then we're gonna plug the fuse in, which I unplugged earlier, and the lights should turn on. And voila, we have light. So there you have it, folks. Now that we're done with the lighting step, I want to actually show you what it looks like with my phone, because I can control the lights like so. I can just play with the different lights, and it's pretty cool. I mean, for being this cheap, obviously they had to cut some corners, but that's pretty cool. I like that. Now that we're done with the lights, I'm actually going to start placing them around the bumper and the frame and seeing where will be the best position. I'll meet up with you in a few seconds and show you exactly where I ended up placing them. Just got the wiring pretty much figured out. I think exactly where I want it to be. And are you guys ready for what it's gonna look like? Okay, 3, 2, 1. There it is, boys and girls. That is what it's going to look like. Now, I was a little concerned that the middle light may not have enough lighting on the left and the right-hand side, but what I actually did was I put the bumper back on the car and tested it to make sure, you know, I don't want to remove the bumper again. That was a one-time thing, unless for some reason these lights go bad. So I tested the bumper on, made sure it looked good, and actually the difference between the left and right side was negligible when you had the bumper on. This is where I put the wires. I still haven't hid them or anything. They're still hanging. I just used tape and some zip ties just to kind of test and see what it looks like. But I fed one of the lights up top over here. Then I fed another light underneath this crash bar over here, the frame. Then I actually wired lights all the way down into the body of the car, all the way through into this vent over here. There's actually a vent right up top over here that allows for the wire to feed through. You can see it's actually shaking as I'm pushing it, but I'm gonna put one light over here, and then the same thing, I fed the wire all the way on to the driver's side, shot it down and out over here, and it's taped again temporarily just to see what it looks like, but I'm gonna feed another light into here. So the next time I'll see you, these lights will be fully installed on the car. Okay, boys and girls, and the wiring is done. It definitely took you about 2 seconds to have it finished, and it took me about an hour just figuring out exactly how I'm going to wire it to make it efficient and make sure the wires do not get in the way of any moving parts. So let me show you what I did here, because I think this is really helpful to know. This is how I wired this light over here. So I actually used the double-sided sticky tape, which is something really nice about the set that I purchased, because the backside of the LED strip has double-sided sticky tape, but I don't trust double-sided sticky tape. So what I ended up doing is actually running a zip tie through this section over here, up, over, and around, down through here. And this is actually the edge of the zip tie right there, if you can see it on camera. So I attached the light with double-sided sticky tape and secured it with a zip tie to make sure that if the double-sided sticky tape comes loose through regular wear and tear, the zip tie will hopefully hold the LED in place, and that way I don't have to remove the bumper in the future to do this project one more time. Let's take a look at the driver's side, which is essentially exactly the same. It's actually, I think, a little bit smaller on this side than it is the other side, but regardless, the light fit in just fine, and it's kind of hard to see here, but there is a small gap in here where I put the zip tie through. It's not touching this radiator or intercooler. It's just touching the plastic over here. Now, when we get to the middle, it's a little bit of a different story, but also zip ties are a necessity for this project. Down here, I have, well, I should say 4 zip ties, but what I should have done is probably just use 2 zip ties for both this LED and the one up here. But I initially had this top LED in a higher position, and the zip ties wouldn't really work up here. So first LED strip is down here. Again, I have, you know, one zip tie holding it, another zip tie holding it, just to make sure if it does come loose from the double-sided sticky tape, I don't have to remove the bumper again to adjust it. And I'll try to get the position up top over here, but I did the same thing over on the inside as well. But that is how I secured all of the lights. and made sure they wouldn't fall off when I'm driving down the road. Now when it comes to wiring, it's not rocket science. I really just fed it through in this section. As you can see, this is one of the wires that comes through. This is where the hood latch is. It comes through over here. I put one zip tie over here, another zip tie over here, just to make sure it doesn't fall into any of the radiator. The fan is back here, so you're safe, but I just still don't want it touching the radiator. But anyway, that wire zip tied over here runs through, and it actually comes down into this bottom section over here. This light down here actually has wiring, if you can see, right back there, but that wiring comes up as well into this main hub. When you're talking about these two lights over here, they actually feed through a little hole that's kind of right here. You can see here's the wiring. This hole feeds it through the bottom and also comes in through here. So what I did in this main hub, I actually just pushed it into the frame, but this main hub has all of the wires zip tied together. Again, zip tie is a key for this project. And then I just kind of just tucked it into the frame. And you can zip tie it as well around here. And then this goes all the way to this Bluetooth or infrared sensor or whatever. And that goes, like I said, directly to the battery. It's kind of nice. There's already this little hole here attached to the frame of the car. So I actually just fed the connector in through the hole, and I attached it to this IR sensor, Bluetooth sensor. That is pretty much it for the wiring. There's nothing really else to talk about. I think everything's in its place. The next step that I'm going to do is attach the bumper back onto the car, and we're going to reveal exactly what it looks like in its final form. I have finished putting the front bumper back on the Hellcat. I'm super stoked. I have also cleaned myself up a little bit back in the all familiar Swayze shirt. Well, without further ado, I'm gonna show you what all of this looks like and whether all the effort I put into it was worth it. So in 3, 2, 1. And there you have it, folks. That is what it looks like behind the grille of the 2020 Hellcat. And I can even change the colors up, make it, red, make it blue, yellows, greens. What's really nice about this app is I can actually, not only have it match music, but if you can tell when I'm talking, it'll change the colors too. So that's pretty cool. It's a nice little effect, at car shows. It definitely impresses the kids, I'm sure. That's the most important. There's also this like pulsating rainbow effect that it does. And I mean, there's so many features on this app. I mean, for 12 bucks or 14 bucks, however much these lights cost, you really can't beat it. And I love how it turned out. Let me turn on the back lights. That way I can talk a little bit and you can see what it looks like. Obviously, I prefer the purple, and I don't really know why. I'm curious why purple. What I'm actually gonna do next is just put some cinematic footage up on the screen. I'm gonna take this outside in the dark and kind of film all around it. Anyways, to me, this looks Swayze. This is Swayze right here. I love it. I love how it turned out. It's exactly what I wanted. Once I finish with the cinematic footage, we'll actually regroup back here, and I'm gonna finish off this video talking about my thoughts on the project, how long it took, whether it's worth it. So let's cut to that cinematic footage right now. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that little footage. We're back in the garage, and I'm gonna finish off this video talking about whether I'd recommend anybody in their right mind to do this little modification. And to me, I love lights. I think it looks really cool on cars. That's why I did the whole EL wire inside the car. I think this thing is definitely worth it. You know, like I said, it took me a while to pull the trigger to pull the bumper off because you know, it's always hard when you pull off body panels. It's hard to get them realigned. Ultimately, the reassembly of the bumper was actually pretty easy. In fact, I did it in probably about 30 minutes. Once you figure out where everything is and the right angles and positions to put your arms in, no doubt you're gonna get some more scratches for sure, but it's not as hard putting the bumper back on. And I'm sure if I was to disassemble it again, it'd be pretty easy too. And the alignment is pretty exact. I mean, the way that the plastic rivets and the screws line up, I mean, you can't even tell this bumper was removed, which was one of my big concerns, aside from a bunch of handprints that I got to clean off. But other than that, I mean, it fits perfectly back on. So if that's your concern, if you can take it off, you can put it back on. It's really not that challenging. In terms of the wiring process, also not really challenging. You saw it on video, it's pretty easy. You just gotta figure out positives to positive, negative to negative, or ground, and that's it. And then you just gotta make sure that none of the wires get in front of any moving parts. That's also pretty easy. So all in all, this project is not difficult. The hardest part is reaching tight spots. Specifically with the bumper. If you can do that, or you know someone who has smaller hands or arms than you, definitely do it. I think it's 100% worth it. In terms of time commitment, although I filmed it over several days because I did it in the evenings after work, if I had a Saturday afternoon, I could probably get it done in one day without a problem. That's really all it takes. Maybe 5 hours on a Saturday afternoon if it's your first time doing it, and you could probably get it done, maybe even quicker than that. I would recommend for sure getting a plastic rivet removal tool or something like that because it makes your life a lot easier. If I plan to do this again, I'm definitely going to do that. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering why I didn't put lights in this dual snorkel hood, because generally that would be kind of a nice transition to have some lights up here. And I'm not gonna say I won't do it. It might be a project in a little bit down the line. The reason I actually didn't do it this time is because although there's dual snorkels, it's a little deceiving because at least on the 2020 Widebody Hellcat, the snorkel over here is almost fake. I mean, there's just a very, very, very small channel that goes from the passenger side to the driver's side. It's like the size of like 2 millimeters. It's a little 2 millimeter diameter hole that goes from one side to another, which is pretty deceiving. And so in order to actually fit a wire and an LED strip in this section to wire it through here is almost impossible. The people that I know who have put lights in this dual snorkel, especially on the passenger side, have actually drilled a hole from the underside of the hood to be able to fish that wire through the insulation to the fuse box or wherever you want to wire it. So that is really the only option that's possible to get a light in here. I don't know if I'm just ready enough to put a hole into the hood. I definitely want to put hood pins on this car, but again, step by step, little by little. I'm not going to dive in and do everything all at once, but that may be a project down the line in the future. That pretty much finishes up today's video. If you guys do have any questions about this process, I am happy to discuss it with you. Leave your questions in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. I absolutely love how it turned out, and I'm super, super stoked for people to see it at car shows, especially when it's in the evening on the summer nights. I love how it turned out. I'm totally for this project. It wasn't a waste of time. It wasn't too difficult either. But let me know what you guys think. Like always, don't forget to like this video, share it, and comment down below your thoughts. And make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you don't follow me on Instagram or TikTok, make sure you do so at Schwazy_ for some different type of content than the YouTube channel. And like always, my friends, stay Schwazy, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day.